Welcome back. This is the public portion of our council meeting for January 22nd, 2019. I do have a motion before me, moved by Councillor Hergert, second by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session of council at 7 p.m. Calling, any questions? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. So after we adjourn out of or recess out of closed session, there is a statement that the mayor must make, and that is that I confirm that only closed session items identified were discussed in closed session. Thank you. So we are now on item 6, which is the comment period. This is an opportunity for members of our audience to, oh, pardon me? Oh, all right. Oh, all right, thank you. This is the nice part of having the clerk to my right. There's a few items that we need to deal with after, under item 5, which is matters arising from closed session. Clerk Turner, thank you very much for the technical part of it and the procedural component. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby authorizes the Mayor, CAO, Deputy Clerk, and Director of Finance and Treasurer to sign the agreement contained in closed session report Clerk Report 01/22/19-1, item 5. Questions? Calling the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. I was getting ahead of myself, members of council. The next item, moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby appoints the following citizens to the following committees, in addition to those citizens previously appointed by bylaw number 132-2018. Dark Sky Committee, Bev Falco, Marion Radcliffe. Durham Cemetery Board, Jim Atkinson, Jennifer Doherty-Hay, Bert Welsh. Elmwood Community Centre Joint Board, Ernie Faulkner. Glenelg Hall Committee, Ben Morris, Glenn Morris, Joanne Timmins, Bill Timmins. Grey County Farm Safety, Bev Falco. Union Cemetery, Fred Newman, Neil Wepler. West Grey Commercial Beautification Committee, Scott Forrester, Mary Lou Peffer. West Grey Parks, Recreation and Culture, Local Committee, in brackets Newstat. Audrey Filsinger, Rio Marchena, thank you. Zachary Weber. Questions on the motion? Oh, yes, Councillor Hamilton.
Excuse me, Mayor Robinson. Is it Gloria Morris, or just to check?
For what committee, please, Councillor?
For Glenelg.
For Glenelg. Let us double check.
What names did you mention for Glenelg?
Ben Morris, Glenn Morris.
Okay, I believe that should be Gloria Morris. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will just repeat that. For Glenelg Hall, Ben Morris, Gloria Morris, Joanne Timmins, Bill Timmins. Thank you for that clarity, for sure. Any other questions or clarity? Calling the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you, clerk. All right. Moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hergert. For this? Oh, okay. All right. So now we are on item 6, which is the comment period. So this is the point in the meeting that if there are members of council that have comments on anything germane to the agenda before us this evening, just acknowledge by putting your hand up, and then you're invited to go to the podium. You have 2 minutes in total to speak or comment, and then for a grand total of 10 minutes on this section of the agenda. Bob Miller, yep, please go to the podium and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I pulled something out of the minutes from a meeting earlier, and that was bylaw number 2 in respect to the CBO and bylaw and building inspector. That person have an office hours here, or be here all the time, or how will that work?
Yes, I will defer to our CAO, but we will be having building services here as well, so you'll be able to get permits. It's a one-stop shop here for building services. Once again, CAO Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson, and thank you for the question, Mr. Miller. Our CBO will be in the West Grey office on Tuesdays and Fridays, but as the Mayor indicated, every day of the week, customer service staff will be available to help with the building permit process. If you need to speak with the CBO, he's got those 2 office days, but he's also available by email. So we have very good access to Mr. Pluis.
And will the inspections be done in a timely fashion?
Through you, Mayor Robinson, I'm pleased to say that they're already happening at a very quick pace. Bill's been busy out and about and cleaning up some of the files that have been sitting, waiting for some action.
Because over the past years, I have heard complaints about, oh, building inspector, we want to close the thing in and we got to wait and so on. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. Now, back to this budget thing. I've been kind of trying to study that, and I kind of wonder, thinking we're going to hire 2 or 3 more people.
Well, there is a proposal from our various departments for that. It certainly has not been a determination at this point through budget. Council hasn't made a final decision, is what I'm saying.
Well, we hired 2 new people last year. We'll have to kind of question how many people we actually need, because I've been studying this stuff, and there's no mention in there at all about hiring any more additional people. I have each councillor's flyer in here, and nobody mentions anything about hiring anybody else. We talk about trying to save money, and we talk about bridges and roads and bridges, but we don't talk about hiring more people, so we can't have it both ways. So I guess that's about it for now.
No, very good points.
We'll watch budget news coming out.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Anybody else in the audience wish to make a comment? No? Oh, yes. Kelly Greenshield?
This is a question, because it was just based on something that I read. Are you guys talking about the 1.8 increase, cost of living increase for staff and councillors tonight?
Yes, that was put forward on our first budget meeting. There was a recommendation for the 1.8 increase, and it is on the agenda this evening under consent.
Okay, then I have a comment for that.
Okay.
And know that I respect everybody here, and I respect and appreciate all the work that you guys do. But in the workplace, you have to work a year at a place before you get you get a cost of living increase. There are new people on staff, so is this supposed to be for across the board for staff, or will this be for staff that have been working for the year, and then for the new staff that has come on, and the new councillors and mayor and deputy mayor? It would suggest that you guys would also need to wait the year before you get that.
So the way the recommendation is to council, the 1.8 would be for the staff grid, so that would be all of staff, and volunteer firefighters and members of council. It's the cost of living.
No, I know that, but even if I was to take on a new job, or like anybody taking on a new job, they would not get that cost of living increase until a year later. So what I'm suggesting or pointing out is that there are new staff here that have not been working here a year. Why the difference between, shall we say, the real world and politics?
No, it's for municipal government, but I think what I can do in this case, if our treasurer is prepared just to talk about the process in terms of addressing the cost of living index and how it gets infused into the grid to keep market current, just provide some comment for Callie, but also for everybody that is watching. I think that's really important to have that understanding.
Yeah, our staff are all placed on a grid, which provides pay equity, which is a requirement that we must abide by as a municipal government. So to just hold an individual back, we would lose sight of our pay equity. So the whole grid gets adjusted and everyone is placed within that grid on our system. So.
Okay, thank you. Anybody for any further questions or comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none. So for item 7, there are no public meetings. For item 8, which is the consent agenda, I do have a motion. Moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Herger. Be it resolved that items A1 to B1 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted as printed, and further that authorization be given for the action to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. All right, so we are on part 2 of our regular agenda. This is item number 9, which is the communications from mayor and members of council. I'll begin, and then I'll be looking around the horseshoe. Let's see if I could do this rather quickly. I did attend as well as some members of council attended the grand opening and ribbon cutting for a new business in Durham, which is called Squeeze Me, Stomp Me, Make Me Wine. I also attended the Agricultural Society for the Durham Agricultural Society AGM. Debbie Tucker is the president. And I've also attended the New Stanton Normanby Carrick Agricultural Society AGM, and Robert Klages is the president. And I was fortunate to judge the Durham Legion chili cook-off with 2 other judges. And Ann Saunders was the winner for that, so she has bragging rights for the year, which is rather exciting. Now, I will start on this end of the table. Is there anybody that wishes to speak? Councillor Hutchinson.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to mention the new wine store in Durham, which is nice to see new business coming to town and into West Grey. So it's good to visit those places. I'd also like to mention that the Family Day and Frazzle Fest plans are coming together. We're working on that as a committee. That's for the February 15th to 18th weekend. So hopefully people will get involved. Number of activities to take place again this year, and hopefully if weather cooperates, we'll maybe even have some snow sculptures, but no guarantees. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, just to remind people to keep it in mind.
That's fantastic. Councillor Hamilton? Good.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks, and we have a busy couple of weeks coming up. Happy to attend Squeeze Me, Stomp Me, Make Me Wine opening with Jonathan and April Brill. It's been the starting of new boards and committees, I'm sure for many of us here in council. So last week I attended the Elmwood Community Centre Board. I was also at the library board with Councillor Hutchinson. And at the library board in particular, it was exciting to see diversity at the table. So we have residents from across West Grey representing all the communities within our larger community at the library board. And we're off to a great start. This coming week I will start, excuse me, at the SMART board as well. Last weekend, I was at the Women's March in Owen Sound. It was very, very cold. We had 75 women and children and men gathered in the library in Owen Sound, where we had good discussions, letter writing campaigns, and making our signs. And I'd like to extend a congratulations to Jenny Parsons, who had an opening at the Durham Art Gallery, and her exhibit Harmonia will be there for a few months, I believe, but for a little while. And her paintings all feature the town of Durham. So I encourage everyone to go to the Durham Art Gallery to go see Jenny Parsons' paintings. And on the weekend, I was also at the Saugeen Trading Communities AGM, 25 years strong with over 80 members, all participating in a local exchange trading system. So keeping our local economy strong. And coming up, it's the Durham Fitness Center's 20th anniversary this Saturday, and all are welcome to attend. I believe we're cutting cake at noon, and I understand the mayor will be there as well. And another week, I'll be at the boot camp for library board members in Toronto. So all members from across Ontario will be joining for this library board boot camp. And on Sunday, February 3rd, from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Durham Community Centre, MP Larry Miller has invited Canada's Minister of Border Security and Organized Crime Reduction for a public meeting with constituents about firearms. So all these things will be happening before our next council meeting. Thank you.
Very good, and thank you for a very comprehensive report on that. I will not be attending, unfortunately, the celebration at the Durham Activity Centre, but I have asked Councillor Shea to stand in for me, and so he will do an absolutely fantastic job at that event. So now I'll pass it over to you. Do you have any comments?
I'm looking forward to doing that and participating in many of the other of the events that were articulated by the members at the end of the table.
Very good. Councillor Herger.
I have a couple dates that are off in the future a bit. May 5th is the Hike for Hospice. Originally on the agenda tonight, there was a Hike for Hospice delegation. Anyway, May 5th will be the Hike for Hospice, and that is raising funds for the portion that the government does not fund for the hospice. Now, we just had an announcement from our MPP about more hospice beds for a Chapman House South, and so there will be continued fundraising for that as well. Also save the date for June 18th. Walkerton Golf is putting on a fundraiser for the Hospice South. So those are my two Hike for Hospice and Hospice South updates. Also to the business opening, there was a new backwoods timber creation in downtown Durham. Check it out. It's pretty exciting. Lots of wood creations there. As well, there's Durham Laundromat succession, changing of the keys, let's say. So thank you so much for having your businesses in West Grey. It's very important for all of us to have those opportunities. Yes, Durham Art Gallery, Jenny Parsons had an opening. It features one of our very own Councillor Shea in some of the artwork as well. So anyway, check it out. It is on until March 17th at the Durham Art Gallery. This weekend, some of us will leave to go to Roma, which is the Rural Ontario Municipality Association meeting. This is very important that rural Ontario municipalities can meet up with our provincial counterparts and to be able to discuss changing provincial legislation and also be able to ask up on a few items that we need locally. Tomorrow I'll be attending the Airport Commission meeting and Normanby Rec. I noticed on our website, it says that the meeting is January 28th. It's actually January 30th.
Okay.
So anyway, just that one note, and it starts at 7:30 in the Normanby Arena boardroom.
Good, thank you. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, again, lots going on. I've attended quite a few of the events that have already been mentioned, so I won't go into that as well.
Thank
But
you.
I think what you'll find is you've got a very active council that is participating in your community, and we're trying to get out to as many things as we can. So if you know or hear about events and you don't think we know, by all means, please let us know. Thank you.
Good, thank you for that. Now, Deputy Mayor.
Well, I guess it's hockey season for me, so I have the fortunate a calling of being running all our tournaments, and I'm very pleased to say that this past Saturday, we had almost 300 little first-year players come to Durham, and I think we had about 800 guests total that came into the community. So I know they hit all our restaurants, and including Tim Hortons, et cetera, but it was a great day. So we have a couple more tournaments, another one coming this weekend, which we've got 8 teams throughout the province coming. And then our final one's March the 2nd, it'll be an 8, and I've got 20 teams, and that's Tyke. So once that's wrapped up, I'm looking forward to getting on to my actual appointed committees for council. Thank you.
Very busy. So item number 10, members of council and individuals in the audience. Item 10 is a delegation. That delegation has withdrawn because a private donation has been received. So we originally had a delegation request for the Durham Hike for Hospice. That has since been requested to be off the agenda. So I think that's quite wonderful news that a private donation has been received. So with that, thank you. I'll just pass that down, please. Item 11, business arising from the previous meeting. I'm not aware of anything. Clerk Turner, are you aware of anything? Good, that's good for that. We're on item 12, staff reports. We'll start with the Director of Finance and Treasurer. It's report FTR 01/22/19. It's included in the agenda. So Director Mighton, would you like to start off on your first item, which is the approval of vouchers, of which there are 2.
Yeah. Is there any questions on the vouchers?
All right. Yes, Councillor Hergert?
I had a question about page 63, Aaron Eldersley, if we were going to continue being part of the multi-municipal wind turbine working group. And if we are, then that fee, it looks like it's a one-time yearly fee, annual fee. And the amount again, Carrie?
The annual amount is $400 currently.
Okay.
So for my response, that was a consideration when we were looking at our various committees and boards, both internal and external. At this point, we do not have a member appointed. I'm suggesting that we not appoint. It's something we can look at in future if it's required, but I'm not suggesting the necessity of it. But yeah, I'm seeing concurrence. So with that, the removal of the $400 will be adjusted then. Okay. Yeah, our clerk has that adjusted for our total. Any other questions? Councillor Hutchinson. Thank you.
On page 49, page 3, I think it is in yours, Carrie, the bridge and culvert study that's going on, Glenelg and Bentig, there's a couple charges there, $4,000 for one and $3,000 for the other. Is that complete? It says Glenelg and Bentig. Is that all of the charges for that one? Maybe our Director of Infrastructure wants to comment on that. And it mentions about, I guess my question was Normanby, there's a page 49, or page 3 and Carrie's. So, just curious about our status of where we're at and whether there's more monies going out for that.
To answer that, Councillor Hutchinson, so we're still waiting on the final report for Normanby, and this is the rationalization study that the consultant is currently undertaking. So we've received 2 of the reports. The second report for Glenelg is being amended. There's some minor things. It's going to be forthcoming very shortly, and they are currently working on the Normanby one. So there's one last report to come, and then our bridges, we will have the final report and then proceed into deliberations regarding that report in the future.
Okay, so that should be the end of the study charges, more or less. There was a couple of different charges, and I was curious about the Normanby OSIMS. Is that's part of that?
Okay, that's the Ontario structures. That's the one that is mandated by the province, legislated by the province, that we have to inspect our bridges biannually.
So that's a different.
So that's the Normanby structure. So what we've done, that's the second part. So it's split into 2 Two parts. North of Highway 4 and south of Highway 4 is the way the structures are being inspected, so that there's basically a streamline that is showing similar cost annually instead of the spike biannually in the reporting. So I've split up the bridges to have it completed that way.
Okay, all right, thank you. And there was one other question, just right below that, the Redmond's Tree Service, tree cutting on George Street during cleanup after storm. So I presume that's the last windstorm that we had. So we had some trees down on George Street. I don't remember hearing about that, but sounds like, I know there was a lot of branches around. Do you have any details on that, or do you remember? Sure, last year.
So I'm looking at the date. It's August. So I'm suggesting that there must have been some trees that came down during a storm.
Oh, I see. It's got September 7th later on there too. So
Or sorry,
573 George
September
Street.
7th.
I'm not sure where that is, but
I don't have a real good memory, but
yeah, okay. I didn't remember hearing about it, but I know there was I'm thinking it was that last high windstorm, but no, that wouldn't be September. That would be after that.
okay. So the storm was in August 29th,
Oh, it was August.
and there was a call out on September 7th also.
Okay. So it's for both.
Cleanup of trees after a storm in both cases.
Okay. Okay.
So
Good, and that's the point of having good records, because you're able to go back on it, so I appreciate the detail that we have. So thank you to staff for that. Councillor Townsend?
Yeah, two things. On page 1, there's a bill from the Dominion for the voting system. Does that amount take into account the 20% credit that we were supposed to be getting back?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And on page 9, I noticed that there was a bill for LED lighting changing at Normanby Arena, and from investigation, it seems that that will also get us a credit from the program, as well as reduce the hydro costs.
Yes.
And then
we
there's
get
another one.
Yeah, we get a
Right.
rebate there, yeah, as
Yeah,
well.
there's another one a couple of pages latest for the Normanby Depot. And I guess the comment is well done, because when Chief Swartz was in here for the budget review, he commented they did that in the fire halls, and they're getting huge cost savings.
Yes.
And I think, it's a great way to show how we're managing and reducing costs, so that, we can move forward on other projects. So thank you. Appreciate it, Brent.
And we have also finished doing it in the Durham Arena as well.
Good. Good point. Thank you. Further questions? Okay, I do have a motion if there are no further questions at this point. Okay. So it's moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 24-2018 and voucher 2-2019 in the amount of $437,342.48 and $25,903.42 respectively of the municipality of West Grey. Now, that does take under consideration the $400. The clerk did the adjustment on this. Any further questions, or any questions? Okay, calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Item 2 on the Director of Finance and Treasurer's report, approval of a 50% of operations and maintenance for 2019 budget. Director Mighton?
Yeah, we haven't had to do this for the last couple of years. We were fortunate enough to have our budget passed in January or early February, but in light of our delay in getting to the budget with the election this year, we're a bit behind. So it's just bookkeeping for the operations until the budget is passed.
And I would just say it's not necessarily categorized as a delay, just that, as newly elected to council, we're dealing with the budget in the appropriate time and manner. But I just wanted to make that point. But certainly it is a delay based on the regular process, for sure. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, I was going to make a similar comment in the sense that because we're taking our time to make sure we understand how the budget was put together, and it also will contain some of the initiatives that we heard when we were on the campaign trail, and making sure that we do address some of those issues, which is why we're taking longer. And I appreciate the fact that the old council actually deferred to us. They could have moved forward on a budget and chose not to, and I think that's speaks good for us because we do get to form it the way we want to.
Further comments or questions? So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the 2019 operations and maintenance budget for the Municipality of West Grey to a maximum of 50% of the 2018 budget. Questions on this motion? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Just one other item. Director Mighton, this is information correspondence, first quarter 2019 mileage reimbursement rate.
Yeah, so that's just updating the next quarterly mileage adjustment for council and staff.
For information. Do you need any additional information at this point? Okay. Well, thank you. Well, I wonder, Director Mighton, you do have a bylaw on further down on our agenda. Do you wish to address that? And once you do, because I'm indicating that you may want to say something on it, I'm going to ask if any member of council wishes to address the bylaw. It's item 10, well, proposed bylaw 10, 2019.
Yeah, so there's been a few changes in the Tax Sales Act. This is just formalizing delegation of authority to enter into extension agreements for with someone who has some tax arrears and they want to make arrangements for making payments. We can, if we've started the tax sale procedure, this would give us the authority to freeze that, and while the person continues to make the payments on the property, and it wouldn't have, the agreement itself wouldn't have to come back to council each time. So it's just that delegation of authority to staff to enter into those agreements.
Good. Questions? Councillor Herger.
How many properties might we be dealing with it on an annual basis? Just a rough estimate, please.
We have 2 that we will be doing this year.
For the extension?
For the extension, yeah.
Okay. How many properties total for tax sale?
I think we have
An approximate, it's fine too.
maybe about 20 right now that are, I've started the process, but nothing is at the final stage yet.
Good. Further? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay if you want. Why is that always a joke, right? Don't know. All right. Well, moving on. Thank you very much, Director Mighton. Now we're dealing with the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works. There is a report, and it is PW-19-02, Lysic Biosolids Processing Agreement. Director Glazier.
Thank you, Worship. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Actually, there's a slight little change. I've noted on here $17 per ton. It's actually $17 per cubic meter. That's written up in the agreement, so I made a little miscue there.
Okay, Clerk Turner, is that able to be adjusted on the agreement? And can we put as amended if it should pass then? Okay. And Director Glazier, do you have any comments on the bylaw or the proposed bylaw before us, which is proposed bylaw 13-19? Any further comments you wish to make on that?
No, I don't.
Okay, members of council, questions? Councillor Hutchinson.
Are we still referring to the 19 the Lystec biosolids?
Yes.
One, that's what we're referring to?
Yes, please. Yep.
Just wondering if the director would maybe just share with the other counselors in the audience a little bit about, I know we do this, but we also had the discussion of, should we be supporting the biodigester in Chatsworth, or I guess it's in South Bruce municipality?
No, it's in, actually, the biodigester is up in Georgian Bluffs.
Georgian Bluffs, okay.
Yeah.
So there is a biodigester that's sort of struggling, and I know there's been discussions at the county level about how to keep that going, how to make it viable. And this is one area that we could support it. We've had some discussion, but I know there's some costing involved. So maybe if you wouldn't mind just sharing what you know about that situation there.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchison. So prior to my arrival, I think the previous director had investigated using, let me back up. Once the province had stipulated eliminating the process of disposing of biosolids on agricultural land, I believe this municipality under the previous director looked at the biodigester up in Georgian Bluffs. And from what my understanding is that the cost of sending the sludge there was prohibitive. And it happened right around the time that the new Lystec facility opened up, roughly about, I'm going to say about 10 years ago, maybe not that long ago, but regardless, there was a cheaper alternative of disposing of our biosolids through Dundalk. A little closer, trucking costs, things like that, the handling costs were much cheaper. I have not looked at the cost of what Georgian Bluffs, I'm going on previous history. It wasn't economical at the time. I'm not sure where it sits right now, but we're limited in where we can send this material. There's only two places. There's that place and Lystec, and Lystec is fairly close, and like I said, economical. They're going to hold their prices for the next 3 years. So I'm looking at, again, securing a facility that we have no issues with. It's been a very engaging company to work with. And I would encourage, if council wants, it's a very fascinating facility. I would highly recommend, if you're willing, to set up a tour of the facility. They've opened their arms to having that, so that's something that I would highly recommend. If you've never been to it, it's a fascinating facility.
Yeah, I think that's something we can do. We'll have further discussion on that. Councillor Hutchinson, you have some more questions.
So my only concern is that we're sort of locking ourselves into a 3-year deal here, and I understand what you're saying there, but I do think that we need to investigate the biodigester further. I think there's going to be some discussions at the county level because some of the municipalities in the surrounding area are looking at supporting it. I know it hasn't been feasible at this point, but we're also in the future going to be looking at some place for organic material. I hope, if we ever get our system going, that we can defer some of our organic material from going into our landfills. So maybe that goes to Lystec. I don't know if they take that kind of material or not, but that's just something I hope that in the future, maybe in this term, that we look at that as an alternate, or look at, where are we going with this and with our organic material. So that's my sort of wish out there for this term.
Good. Okay, before I just ask if there are any other questions, I just want to make a clarification that our director said there was just an amendment, but it was within your report for the $17 per cubic meter in the report, and it's not part of the bylaw. So just so that
No, that's correct.
members of
Yeah.
council
No.
have that clarity. Further questions, comments? Oh, yep, Councillor Hergert.
To Councillor Hutchison's point, we have heard several times that the biodigester in north of here does not have enough supply, and that is part of the reason that we can't get the organics program going, is because there's not enough supply. So Brent, further to Councillor Hutchison, is it possible to have this same agreement 1 year, not a 3-year term, or what was the discussion around the term of the contract?
And so previously, back, I'm thinking over a year ago, I think I had wanted to enter into a longer-term arrangement, just to, again, to make it easier on the department and securing where our sludge is going to go and not have to worry year after year. Because, like I said, if one place closes up, it's very hard to dynamically move that stuff around, like where we don't have the storage capacity for that material on site. So it has to go. It has to be eliminated from the processing plant. So it was just a thought. I figured entering in a longer term, we would get a better price, securing it, that they know that they have to meet a certain amount of volume annually for their production of their facility. I mean, they receive sludge as far away from Toronto, that truck up to Lystec. So it's, but anyways, I'm just looking at something that's been working very well. I've heard it's great that Georgian Bluffs have a biodigester, but I'm not understanding if it's working at their optimum level that it should be. So therefore, I'm wondering if we send all the, if they can even accept everything that we can give them. I don't know that, but I just heard that they're struggling, that it's not able to work efficiently at the present time, or.
So do we have do we have an opportunity, I'm not sure what the time is on renewing our contract. Do we have time to investigate a little further to see if Georgian Bluffs is up to speed and ready to take this, or if that's not even an option? I would like to explore that as an option, and maybe come back to the next committee of the whole meeting, or I'll let you go with that. But I think if we did for a 1 year, that would be fine while we explore our options. But to Councillor Hutchison's point, I would not want to tie our hands to it.
Clerk Turner.
The agreement does speak to a February 1st, 2019 commencement, so if the contract isn't entered into, you may be stuck without a place to dispose of the material.
Councillor Shea.
So your recommendation is to enter into a 3-year agreement with this firm. I don't know why we can't do that and start looking at moving to another facility at the termination of that 3-year contract. 3 years is not a whole lot of time to work between lower level and municipal and multi-county level discussions. They're not here making presentations to us to go and use their facility, so seems like it would be in the very, very early stages of investigation and could likely take 1.5 years or 2 years anyway. So I'm going to recommend that we go ahead with this and start looking into that alternative at the same time.
Very balanced approach. Further questions or comments? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. I know changes that we need to make in our waste management, it's not gonna happen very quickly, and the way our government's moving, it's moving very slowly. So, but I would definitely like to investigate the option so that we have another option and include it with our organic materials. So sure, we could do that. I understand where Brent's coming from, and it's nice to have that security for sure.
Good, thank you. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, there's another risk of rushing to assume that might be a solution. If there's not enough product and there's not enough coming in, we had that discussion about some other services in the area, like our alternative to getting rid of our own waste and garbage, and like incineration. And we determined that even if we reached out to the other areas, there wouldn't be enough, right, to warrant having that here, an incinerator. So we're going to have the same problem with the other biodigester up in Georgian Bluffs. And I don't know that that is or isn't, but that we need to look at that as well. Otherwise, it may be a good operation, but doesn't receive enough and wouldn't receive enough, and therefore it's not a viable operation. And I'm not saying it's not, but we need to understand, is it viable even if everyone in the lower tier does deposit their waste there? So.
Sure. Sure. Further? Okay, no further questions. We do have your report just to be received now, so we'll receive that and then we'll deal with the bylaw at the bylaw section time. Okay. All right, well, thank you, Director Glazier, appreciate that. So now we are on to the Manager of Community Services, and Manager Stewart is here. We do have a very comprehensive report, and it is titled Special Events Guide. Would you like to take it from here, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, the event guide has been put together. It was a request to look at our current processes and how to streamline them and to bring all of our policies and different things that people need to learn and do prior to having an event into one solid, comprehensive guide. So this was step one, putting it together and bringing it back to the table for some feedback.
Thank you for that presentation. Members of Council, questions? Councillor Herger.
So I was hoping that we could receive this information and have an opportunity to go out to our recreation committees and any other stakeholders that use our facilities and ask for a bit of input. I realize that that might be a sensitive topic, really, because we're asking for input on our policy about insurance and legal matters, and so that might not be appropriate. I would like to have a tad bit of feedback, but I do appreciate our manager here of community services, Stephanie Stewart. This is a very comprehensive guide, and in saying that, I would like everyone to read through it and invite the input back, and maybe we can negotiate if needed, but I think it is a very good document that will basically ensure our risk level is calculated and really the things that are thought about in advance of someone having a special event. And I think that is the most crucial part, that people have successful events in our facilities, that everybody's cautious and our risk is calculated. So I do appreciate your report, Stephanie. I would like and invite input back from members of the public to see how it affects their community group, see if there's any other further dialogue that needs to happen. And in saying that, we have a committee of the whole meeting on the 30th of this month,
Yes.
and that evening is the Normanby Recreation Committee. So I would like to have the opportunity to take this back and pull in that feedback on this document especially.
Okay, I also have an indication that Councillor Townsend would like to say something. Yes.
I have provided feedback to Stephanie already regarding exactly the same point, because I'm convinced from my recall on some of the events that have been happening, they wouldn't be following this as strictly as it's lined. So I guess my fear is if staff here weren't 100% aware, and neither were the users of the facilities, we're asking for significant change potentially to their events. And I think having that dialogue would enable them to understand the change, see what they need to change, or whether or not there's an opportunity to change what our policy is without giving up either our risk or the policy intent, let's put it that way. So I think that would be very, very valuable dialogue to have. And that will also mean when you're done, you'll have the support of the people that use your facilities, meaning they'll continue to use it. So I would support Councillor Hergert's suggestion. So.
And this is the first opportunity of such a comprehensive document before council, so it has awareness of our citizens and our community volunteers. First opportunity here, second opportunity certainly would be at Committee of the Whole for more of a discussion and consideration of it. A supplementary, and then I will go over to Councillor Hutchinson.
I should have also mentioned, I commend Stephanie for doing what she's done, bringing it all together, and it will make it a lot easier for people to understand what everything is. And therefore, when they're asked to adhere to it, you've got the document that says there it is and there's a logic behind it, so well done.
Lots of accolades. There you go. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, that was going to be my suggestions, that we bring it back to Committee of the Whole. It's a huge document. There's a lot of issues in there. I think there's some duplication in there too, and one of the concerns we had expressed last term of council was someone that was more in the home building issue, but red tape, that we have so much red tape, and I think what we're doing, if we don't make this user-friendly, that people are going to come get frustrated and they're not going to use the documents, they're not going to use their facilities. So we want to make it so that they're going to use their facilities, but understanding that liability, as Stephanie has mentioned, is a big issue. So, yeah, I think we need to do some work on this, do some discussion at committee of the whole, plus get public input, as Councillor Herget has mentioned. That I think it's very important to our people out there that are running some of these events, that they have input before rather than after we make the changes. So that's my suggestion.
Before I go to Councillor Hamilton, I just want to clarify, our next committee of the whole is January 30th. And we don't have one in February just because of the scheduling, and it ends up being March 5th or something like that. So I'm wondering, just for clarification, are we looking at the 30th of January or looking at committee of the whole for March? And I'm going to ask our CAO for a comment on that. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, our preference as from the staff perspective is we would really like to have this handbook in place so that as we get to the busier times of activities, groups have the guidebook that they can be successful. If council deems that that's not enough time to hear from your constituents, we would have to put it off to March, that's just going to delay implementation. And also from the staff perspective, we're fine to hear more comments because, you know, we want to have both sides of the story. One thing that I would caution, though, there are some things in here that we would just have to explain a little bit further. You know, not every change could be accommodated, but we certainly would like to hear some of the feedback. So if the 30th is too soon, we could work with the 5th of March, but it'll just impact how much later we have this resource for our groups.
But preference is the 30th.
It is.
Just for clarity. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Hamilton and then Councillor Hutchinson. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Stewart. This is very comprehensive, and it looks like it's going to be like a one-stop shop for planning events, so I appreciate that. And I, too, that was top of mind for me, too, Councillor Herget, was having our community groups who frequently use our facilities weigh in and give us indication of how this might change the approach events or any questions they have so that we can not surprise our citizens, that we can work out some of these details ahead of time. And I wondered if maybe this document might go to the Recreation Advisory Committee, because that is an overseeing committee representing all the different rec boards or committees. So that was one idea. I do have a couple questions for you. Could you explain what's new in this policy that we haven't had in policies previously?
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. So the main things that you'll notice, I mean, we've already have a municipal alcohol policy. We already have a lot of the bylaws in place. And a lot of the document, as the CAO had stated, are things that we can't necessarily change. So in there is the public health food guide that's set by them, the smoking policy, again, set by public health, some of ours are bylaws already, like the municipal alcohol policy, our noise bylaw. These are already things that are kind of set in place that, of course, we are open to discussing and changing if need be, but I didn't necessarily create them new. So in regards to what is new, it was really just pulling everything together and bringing it into a comprehensive guide. These are all documents that we already had in place. Some of them I have, you know, borrowed and done some research on other places and how other places are doing this sort of thing, and pulled together those resources, and then just really having like an application form. I think those are the things that we were kind of missing, just to get all that information prior to, so that when an event happens, I can fully understand what's happening, and I can also educate council on the different events that are happening and any concerns that we may have.
Thank you. So there's no new policy within, this is just pulling together existing policies we already had?
The main thing that people would see that's new would be the special event application form.
Okay.
Which is at the beginning. That would be I would say, your new thing. The alcohol policy is pre-existing. And yes, everything else is our documents that already have been in existence.
Okay. So for the insurance, is that something that every booking requires their own insurance, or just when it involves alcohol?
So we have actually looked into game day insurance, which is put on through a third party, and Frank Cowan, our insurance provider, has a similar policy. And a lot of municipalities are going the route of every time someone books a facility, there is a small fee that they can pay that covers them for the insurance, so they don't have to go out and provide us with a copy of their own insurance. So yes, eventually we will be getting to that same model. Well, I'd bring that back as a recommendation to get to that same model, that it's a very nominal fee, it doesn't cost a lot. So if you're just hosting, a birthday party or something small, it might be a couple dollars to cover you for insurance. So it doesn't always have to have the alcohol component. It would be for any facilities that we will be renting. We'll have a built-in insurance premium, I should call it. And this, we could have that rate so people won't have to go out and get their own insurance built in. So when we know that they're renting for and serving alcohol, that would be an additional fee that they could choose to opt in and use, or they could go out and get their own if they already had their own insurance.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, there's the potential for them to, for a small premium, have their insurance through our municipality.
Correct.
In a way. Okay. Because I know it can add up to get insurance. And so would that be a new part then to this procedure moving forward?
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for that question too, because there are certain things that I think can definitely be added to the guide that I'm looking at, that I've noted, that we just need to work on still. Like there's certain bylaws that I would suggest that we bring forward and add to this guide as time moves on, just to make it more robust and comprehensive. But at the moment in time, these were the bylaws that I had, and these are the things I had in place that I could bring forward. But I have a whole list of 12 things that I'd like to add eventually to this guide to make it even more thorough.
And then regarding smoking, are we just smoke-free across municipality for municipality buildings and parks and?
Yes, I was at the Durham Arena today, and there's actually a sign now. It's 20 meters is the new guideline, and we are to enforce that. So, and smoking encompasses all forms.
Yes, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay. In the guide, it listed many different parameters around smoking. I wonder if we could just say we are smoke-free in our facilities. Might be a way to simplify. How does the booking software fit in once we get the booking up and running?
So all of these documents will be something that they can receive once they get their booking and their invoice, and I can send it all to them in one go, so that they have all of it, all their application forms, anything they need, they would have it at the time.
Okay. I actually meant, I understand there's that platform that you can book a facility. Would that be explained in this package as well?
It could be, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Eventually, like there is a section on in here that said like, how do I book a facility, or tell me more about it, and that will go in. I will add that as we get along.
Okay. And then under special event definition, it spoke to private property, and that made my eyebrows go up. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yes, thank you. So private property, this guide is not necessarily intended for our own property. It's for any any event that someone's doing in West Grey, because if you're hosting an event on your own private property, this information would still be valuable for you. So that's why it's in there.
Okay, like a large wedding or that kind of thing. Okay. And then there were a few, so on the form where you check yes or no, and then it tells you what you also might need. I couldn't find these documents online, like I couldn't find a hawkers and peddlers permits, or I hear some giggling in the audience. Are there a few things mentioned that aren't online yet, or? Okay,
Yes,
but they exist, they're just not on our website?
They do, and they're part of my list of things that I'd like to add.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good. Very, very good questions. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, so I agree, Stephen, you've done a good job to bring things together, but I would really like to take the time to go through each of these categories step by step, because there are a number of questions I have too, and I'm sure other councillor members will have. I think what this does is also brings up the idea of that we need to look at, should we be licensing, should we be the person who controls the liquor in our facilities? And we've had that discussion. It's a big issue, and it's another one of those ones that you'd have to have lots of public input to do that. In previous, there wasn't a lot of interest to do that, but maybe it's time to look at it again. So I think that brings it to mind when we start talking about alcohol in our facilities. My suggestion would be, can we look at it on January 30th and go through it in a bit of an itemized thing? And then would that be enough time to say from January 30th to our next committee of the whole, which would be a month, to put it out there for the public to give us feedback? and then on the next committee of the whole, try to finalize or nail it down sort of thing. So that's a suggestion for a timeline.
Good, okay, good suggestion. Okay, where are we at? Councillor Herger and then Councillor Townsend. Okay, you're fine, thank you. Councillor Townsend then.
Yeah, a couple of things. I guess the first one is that these are the bylaws, these are the rules, these are what are there, but I'm sure there are people non-compliant to them, and that's part of the concern I have. If you've had an event going on for a few years and they're not compliant, and they don't know they're not compliant, they may have to reorganize their event, and that's going to take some time. And yet, do you want to have them non-compliant to a policy you have? Believe me, I'm a great believer in protecting your butt, making sure you got the right risk covered. The legal should be covered off. So if they're smoking, they shouldn't be. It's as simple as that. You've also got some great ideas in there for what people can do for things like designated drivers, supplying a lot of the non-alcoholic at a minimized or no cost. I think that will encourage some of the other problems, that have incurred. Insurance is another one. I do know, for example, when the foundation has an event, they would never take advantage of insurance we offered as a municipality because they're covered under the hospital. And they were surprised when the insurance coverage actually was extended to the foundations at no additional cost. So the hospital's not getting any additional cost, and neither is the foundation because it's fundraising, right? So they're going to leave that alone, which is excellent. It's an excellent arrangement. But just for those things alone, it's a little hard to walk up and say to someone, you have to change your event now because you weren't compliant, and yet non-compliance was permitted. And it's almost like you've been told it's okay because no one really knew. This brings it together, it brings it to a head. I'd rather take the time as well, and I realize that means a month or so delay, but I'd rather get it right and not upset people that are going to use our facilities. So anyway, I just raise those things for you to consider it.
Good, very good. Councillor Shea.
I really liked the points that you brought up, Councillor Hutchison, especially the one about being in control of the alcohol delivery at our own facilities. You said this has been discussed for some time as you've been around. I think it was discussed when I was around. I'm curious, do you know, or does anyone know how often this is done in other municipalities? And an extension of that question is, you mentioned, Stephanie, that you were looking at other municipalities. Do other municipalities have like finished, published handbooks that you think are models that we should be emulating? If so, I'd love to have a reference to those just to see what a possible final product would look like. And finally, I liked your idea about us going through it in January and then bringing it out to the community for comment in February. Councillor Herger mentioned bringing it to the Normanby Rec, and that she's a representative on the Normanby Rec. I didn't think we had council representation on the local committees. Because I would love for us to have council rep on the local communities, and if we're going to take it to Normanby, I'd like to take it to all of them.
We have the three representatives for our rec committees. Did you want to, CEO Johnson, just to explain a little further?
Yes, and thank you, Mayor Robinson, and thank you, Councillor, for that question of clarification. The local committees are the equivalent of, they're the folks that are getting the things done. The council reps are actually more valuable to us at the advisory committee level. So, but because we're just starting the transition, I know that Councillor Hergert has been, you had your closeout meeting in 2018. So my understanding was that the next committee meeting, January 30th, staff would be bringing this to the committee for their review. I mean, it's a public document, so they can start looking at it as of Friday, it's out there. If we're going down the path of council, looking at it with a microscope on the 30th, that's fine, and we can do that. And at that point then, I think staff should be able to comfortably and confidently take it to the committees, share that feedback, and gather the input from the committee members to bring back to council.
So, does that answer your question, Councillor Shea?
I think that's totally workable. I do think that it is part of our job to liaise with the community as well and to seek feedback. So whether that's, if it's at the rec advisory committee level or at the local committee level or even in just discussing with citizens on the street, I think we should be active in that role as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, and through you, Mayor Robinson, that's actually what we would prefer as well, because we don't have the capacity or the role of that one-on-one. So wherever we land at that March 5th Committee of the Whole, I'm quite confident the council will have some more feedback in addition to the official channels that we have through the committee structure.
Okay, Councillor? Good. Councillor Townsend?
Yeah, the licensing issue has come before council before. I was an advocate, very strong advocate against it, as a representative of 7 not-for-profit. But it specifically was the terms under which the funds were or were not going to be distributed after the event, which was the issue for the non-profit. So I'm assuming that we're able to deal with that in a better way, a more equitable way going forward. And if we are, I'd be more than happy to participate in that discussion and move forward on it, because there are advantages to it, particularly from a licensing perspective. You get the licenses you need rather than the ones people think they need, right? So it clarifies all that, and it would be excellent to do that. But again, it's going to be a sensitive topic if it is not done correctly and in consultation with the not-for-profits rather than dictating some of what your rules are. So that will be a real tender one to walk into. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Manager Stewart, just a clarification on the health unit and that interaction with food. So is it only if you're selling food that food should be prepared in a kitchen that's approved by the health unit? What if you're having a potluck and you're sharing food? Can you provide clarification?
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. So I have a question of clarification for you as well with your providing food. Are you inviting your own friends and you're going to host an event and you're going to all eat potluck together? Or are we, as the public, hosting an event, all of us are bringing our own potluck and we're now serving that to the public?
Can we do both? Can you tell me both?
So I believe that would be where the difference lies. So when you are providing food to the public, there's a standard that the public is assuming the food has been made in a certain quality of a kitchen, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think I would like the opportunity to get some more information from public health regarding their new standards, because as of I think July of 2018, they changed their rules saying that everybody needed to have safe handling if you were coming in contact with food and serving it to the public. They've given a 1-year grace period, allowing people a full year to get it taken that course, and then by July of 2019, they are going to start enforcing it. So I have that on the agendas to bring to all of the rec committees and to provide them with some information on courses they can take. But I have been receiving many questions similar to yours, and I am not the expert on the public health food. So I will find out some more and see if I can get some more information from our staff member at Public Health to provide back to you. You're welcome.
Further questions? No further questions? So we could just take directions to staff on this rather than a motion. So if we're looking to put this over to the January 30th, get some communication with our community, bring it back on the 5th. I'm just going to maybe go over to Councillor Hutchinson. You had a sort of like a suggested plan in place. Did you want to elaborate, and then we can make a decision on that?
Well, just suggest that we bring it to the Committee of the Whole January 30th and visit it there, do some in-depth look at it, and then put it out to the public that we're looking for input over the course of the month, so that we have, or with 3 weeks, whatever, so it gives a little bit of time to compile that, so that it, on the 5th, I think is the next, and it's only a half day, that Committee of the Whole.
Right.
It's only a half day, so hopefully you would be able to take that input along with our input and be able to revamp, and maybe we can't get it all done the first shot. Maybe there has to be done in stages. I don't know, but just to take some steps to approach it in that manner. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, how does that sound? Okay, sound okay. Manager Stewart, do you have any other comments before we
No, thank
conclude here? Good. All right. So are we all in agreement with that direction? Okay, well, very good. So we look forward to further discussion on this draft special events guide. And thank you very much. Okay. All right. We are now on bylaws, our proposed bylaws for first, second, and third reading. Yes, Councillor Shay.
So may I ask a procedural question?
Absolutely.
So why do we address the bylaw at the end of the meeting instead of after the item that's presented during the meeting?
The quick answer to that is that's according to our procedural bylaw, that we just follow the categories within the designated areas. Do you have anything further? It also follows, it's Bernot's rules, but there's also Robert's Rules of Order that outline an agenda in this particular manner. So that's as far as I can address it. Clerk Turner, do you have anything further?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I completely understood the question. Why is it dealt with in a report and then the bylaw? Is that certainly at the report stage, any clarification, it's easier while for instance, the director is here and can speak to that. He's not here now, so he's left. So any of those questions were discussed. It could be, there certainly could be an opportunity as well at the bylaw stage if, for instance, you forgot to ask a question at that point. We don't always in reports refer to a bylaw or to a bylaw in particular. So there will be occasions where the question would be answered right at the bylaw stage. There's other bylaws, zoning bylaws, for instance, that are recommended by the Committee of the Whole Planning, which would be noted at that time. But there's still certainly an opportunity for discussion if that kind of answers your question, Councillor Shay.
Further?
Well, yes, thank you. So I think the root of my question is that if, say, an early report was going to result in a bylaw later in the meeting, and if somebody from the public was attending the meeting specifically to hear that report and the outcome of that discussion, they then have to stay to the end to find out how it turned out.
Right.
Or alternatively, if people are trying to sort this out on the video, you have to, watch the report part of the meeting and then try to figure out where in the video you have to go to find the conclusion of this process. The two processes seem so linked that I thought it would just be more convenient to the public if we put the bylaw part immediately after the report, if there is an ensuing bylaw.
Further comment?
It'd be somewhat problematic. You'd have a report with an item, a bylaw, then a report, possibly another bylaw, then a bylaw. So it'd be rather, I think, disjointed in my behalf. That's, I think, part of the reason why the comment period at the beginning of the meeting was added to by the new council, that if there were discussions or were questions, that they could be entertained from the public on those bylaws or in that report itself.
Now, we, at some point, will be doing a procedural bylaw review. I'm anticipating that that's what this council would like. I certainly would. We are so noting that because we will have a further investigation, if you will, in terms of logistics, how it will improve our agenda and our meeting process, and how that addresses what we need at the table, but also for our citizens. So, good point. It is not going unnoticed. We'll record that, and we will be having that review soon enough. So, and that also goes for members of council. Please pay, and I know you are, paying attention to the procedure of how we're handling the meetings, what you like in terms of the categories and the flow of the meeting, what you're looking at maybe a little differently, because after all, the procedural bylaw is this council's call to action, or it's our movement for any decision making. So it's a valid document. So I'll just leave it at that because you can talk forever on procedural bylaws. But so noted, Councillor Shay, on that. So that is an excellent segue into our proposed bylaw section. So we're dealing with proposed bylaw for 2019. I'm looking for some. Oh.
So, as Council may recall, Bylaw 4 of 2019 was tabled at the January 8th Council meeting. I think in particular, Councillor Hergert had a question relating to the process in terms of the original bylaw amending, which was amended by another bylaw, and then that bylaw being rescinded and amended, the parent bylaw being 52 of 2016. So I did have an opportunity to sit down with Councillor Townsend, or Hergert, and I do believe she is satisfied with that explanation. So
Good.
if council is okay, it would be in order to pass a motion to lift Resolution 1319 from the table and then reintroduce the proposed bylaw for third reading, for 3 readings. They're okay.
Yep, okay, very good. Thank you for that technical component. So we'll just wait for that motion to come back to be voted on. And then do we have the other bylaw to go through? Okay, we have moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby lifts resolution number 13-19 from the table. Questions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. So now we have, right, and now we can introduce proposed bylaw number 4-2019. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that bylaw number 4-2019 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 29-2016, being a bylaw under the Building Code Act respecting construction, demolition, and change of use permits and inspections, and establishing a building permit fees, and to repeal bylaw number 52-2016, be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Stopping for questions? Certainly. I'm seeing no questions. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. So that's dealing with bylaw 4. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Okay, do you mind just putting that in the order for me? Thanks, Clerk Turner. So proposed bylaw number 8-2019, moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hergert. Be it resolved that bylaw number 8-2019, being a bylaw to enter into an amending subdivision agreement for lands described as lots 20 and 21, concession 10, registered plan as 1097, as amended, geographic township of Bentic, and in brackets, Jacko Developments, Inc., / Forest Creek Estates, be now read a third time, passed as amended, and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner, yes.
So the benefit of council and the audience, there's a few amendments as noted in the resolution. The first one relates to the preamble. It needs to be amended to indicate that being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an amendments to subdivision agreement between Jacko Developments, Inc. and the municipality of West Grey. So that's one slight amendment. The second item relates to Schedule E in the agreement itself, Section 1. There is a reference to a promissory note through discussions with our own municipal solicitor and the solicitor for Jacko. That promissory note reference did not need to be included, so it has in fact been deleted from the agreement. And lastly, with council's approval, there should be a reference as well in the agreement that speaks to there are some unpaid lot levies for approximately half of the 58, 59 lots in the subdivision that do need to be paid. So that should be referenced, and in particular, the lot numbers that are associated with those unpaid lot levies should also be noted in the agreement. So if council is okay with that, I would take that back to her solicitor. She would then make the amendments as she deemed appropriate, and then that would be sent to the owners of the Jayco development for their review and then signing if in fact this bylaw passes tonight as amended.
Good, thank you for that detailed report back. Questions? Councillor Shea.
Yes, Clerk Turner, building permits, thank you. Can building permits be issued before the amending agreement is signed?
So that question was asked at the last meeting, and my initial response was no, because there were some works that needed to be completed prior to building permits being issued. Since then, I have had a discussion with the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works, and he has indicated that works have been completed, in particular for Phase 1, which would be the first, obviously, the first part of the development for the subdivision. So he is of the opinion that, yes, in fact, the works in Phase 1 are completed to standard satisfactory that building permits could be issued.
Further?
Yes, thank you. That answers that question. So in terms of this applying a lot levy to the unsold lots, is that to all the unsold lots? Or all the
Correct.
unlevied,
Yeah,
all the unlevied lots?
there may be a few that were sold individually by the most recent owner, and that will be verified. And if those will be exempted as well.
Okay. All right. Councillor Townsend then.
I'm assuming you'll do the exemption by what the list of lots are that you include that require the lot levies.
Exactly. We'll be quite explicit in terms of identifying the lots that the lot levy will be applicable to.
Further questions? All right, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Number 10? Oh, good. Okay. So proposed bylaw number 10-2019, moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 10-2019, being a bylaw to delegate authority to the municipal treasurer to authorize the execution of tax arrears agreements, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. This was part of our Director of Finance and Treasurer's report earlier in the meeting. Any questions? No? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Proposed bylaw number 11-2019. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that bylaw number 11-2019, being a bylaw to rezone lands described as part of Plan 500, part of Part Lot 9, Sadler North, NS, and in brackets 175 Cross Street South, bracket, geographic town of Durham, McIntyre-ZA-19-18, /B13/2018 and B14/2018, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner.
And this bylaw was recommended for approval by the West Grey Committee of the Whole Planning during the meeting held on January 15th. January 15th.
Oh, very good. Questions? Call the question. All those, oh, yes, Councillor Hergert.
Sorry.
No
Last
problem.
moment, sorry. Thank you very much, Mark, for mentioning the date of that Committee of Adjustment meeting. I think it is important to be able to tie that in if people wanted further information about the item, that they could go to the minutes of the January 15th meeting. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and on that, as we review our procedural bylaw and agendas, we can also identify a notation within the bylaw section if it's helpful. Just a thought. Further questions? Seeing none. Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So proposed bylaw 12-2019, moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that bylaw number 12-2019, being a bylaw to establish a site plan control area on the severed portion of Plan 500, part Lot 3, 512 Lambton Street, geographic Town of Durham, now Municipality of West Grey, be read a first, second, and third time and passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation and signed, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions? Clerk Turner?
Yeah, just clarify again, this was dealt with during the committee of the whole meeting on January 15th. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment was recommended for approval. However, it's recommended subject to entering into a site plan agreement, thus the site planning control area bylaw being before you today. So if this is passed, the site plan agreement will come before council. If that is passed, then the zoning bylaw itself can be dealt with at that time.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Just maybe a point of clarification. So the site plan agreement, what's the procedure once that takes place? Like the builder is going to come bring it back to the building department? How does that take place? How does that look in the term?
So the site plan agreement, when the owner will bring that forward to myself as clerk, it'll be reviewed by the planner. If we're satisfied with it, it'll be reviewed by the municipal solicitor. If he or she is satisfied with it, it'll come before council. If council's satisfied with it, it'll be at a council meeting, and it'll be, if it's supported, it's passed, and then it'll be registered on title. And then the building official will be made aware that that site plan agreement is in force, and that would have to be followed with any building permit.
Good. Further? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Proposed bylaw 13-2019. This is referenced in our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works report on this agenda. Moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 13-2019, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a letter agreement for biosolids transportation, processing, storage, and marketing between the Municipality of West Grey and Lestec. Thank you, Lestec International, Inc., be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions? Oh, sure. Councillor Herger.
Just wanted to add that I appreciate Councillor Shea's comment there that working with our counterparts around Grey County, it might take us a minute to get that organized. So having thought of that and also to alleviate the stress on Works Department and for that guaranteed taker, I guess, not supplier, taker, I do think that this is worthy of passing. Just a comment.
Yep, no, full discussion. That's very, very good. Further? Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, in a previous bylaw, when we were talking about the building rates, et cetera, we repealed the previous one, and that was in the bylaw motion there. We're repealing one in this one as well, but there's no mention in the motion. Should there be? Procedural?
Clerk Turner, are you able to comment on that?
Not necessary in the resolution. The bylaw itself it does repeal the former bylaw.
Satisfied with that? Good. Okay, further? All right, call the question on this bylaw. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So the last one is our, just a moment. Proposed bylaw 14-2019. It's confirmation of the proceedings of this meeting. Moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that bylaw number 14-2019, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the January 22nd, 2019 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions, if any, on this? call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. That concludes our bylaws. We're on to item 14, new business. Clerk Turner.
I received an email from Carl Sider. He's the project manager for drinking water source protection. He has inquired whether or not council wants to put forward a name for consideration by the Drinking Water Source Protection Committee to appoint a member to what's called Group 4 on the Source Protection Committee. Group 4 consists of the Township of Chatsworth, municipalities of West Grey, Grey Highlands, Meaford, and Blue Mountains. So there'd be one representative that the Source Protection Committee itself appoints. However, they are seeking any names if West Grey does want to put forward a name. I understand Grey Highlands, for instance, has put forward one name for consideration. So we can't appoint, or the council can't appoint itself directly, but it can recommend a member for appointment if that's council's wish. So if you do wish to consider that, obviously you can discuss this now, and if you want to proceed with a motion, you could entertain a direct motion.
So, pardon me, just for clarification, we can appoint a member of this council to serve, is that correct?
You can recommend appointing
Recommend
a
serve
council
it.
member, yes.
Okay, so at this point, can I ask for interested members of council, or do we need to wait for the discussion at direct motion? Perfect. So I'm going to put it open to the members of council. If you are interested, let us know. Do we have a date, like the regular meeting schedule, terms of reference, anything like that that you can add?
They didn't provide the next meeting date, but I guess it would be a matter, first of all, of course, I'm not sure of the time frame when they're looking to appoint, but I suspect it'll be quite soon, because obviously there probably hasn't a meeting for a while, given the change in the councils. So I can certainly get that information for council and let you know about that when I get that information for you.
Okay. Who's interested? Anyone? Councillor Townsend? Councillor Townsend? Okay. Sure. Any other members of council interested? I'll just make a little mini list if anybody. Look over here. Am I to acknowledge that interaction, or no? Okay. All right. Yes. All right. So that's very good. All right. So Clerk Turner, is this something that we could put as a direct motion? Somebody can move and second.
It would be in order. You'd need a 2/3 majority to introduce, and then a mover, seconder. I do have a resolution prepared, and I can insert the name of the individual that's put forward.
And Councillor Townsend, thank you for putting your name forward. I think you'll really enjoy it, actually. I mean, that's just a global statement. We haven't voted on it, but very good. Okay, anything further? Any other new business then? All right. Very good. Item 15, addendum, of which we have none. Okay, I just confirm with the clerk. All right, well, here we are already. Notice of motion, direct motion. So we need a 2/3 majority to entertain a motion to appoint Councillor Townsend to that committee. Or recommend. All right, do we have a 2/3 majority for that? Just acknowledge. Yep, good. All right, thank you. Okay, thank you. So I have a motion before me, moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby requests the Drinking Water Source Protection Region Management Committee / Source Protection Authority to consider appointing the following individual as the Group 4 representative, Councillor Stephen Townsend. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Great. So Clerk Turner, what is the process then after, now that this is passed?
So I will email the resolution to Mr. Sider, and when I'm informed of the decision on Group 4, I will let council know of their decision, in particular Councillor Townsend, if in fact he is the appointed individual.
Fingers crossed. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind sending the information in advance anyway, Clerk Turner, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, well, that completes the notice of motion, direct motion portion of this meeting. Now, item 17, closed session incomplete items, of which we do have one. Also, item 18, matters arising from closed session, incomplete matters only. So I'm just addressing that verbally. We do have to go back into closed session, so I'm now skipping over to item 19, which is question period. So, any members of the audience have a question? Just identify by raising your hand, and then we'll just acknowledge you, and then you could go to the podium and ask your question, of which you have 2 minutes time, and for a grand total of 10 minutes for question period. Callie Greenchill.
It is just a suggestion for the event planning that you're doing. And I know we're into budget, and I know there was a lot of talk about reducing waste and zero waste. So when you're considering this proposal, if it could be considered that if they're using disposable dishes instead of using china plates, that a policy could be in place that the dishes that they're using are biodegradable, not styrofoam, that there could be a composting component included in that, so that if food is being prepared, rather than the scraps and stuff going into landfill, it can go for composting. I know from the Brockton group, they have a zero waste group that goes out to all this, or they try to get out to all the events in the community of Brockton to help with composting, making sure that the sorting is done. They do a weighing, and they do an analysis of the event, of the waste that's being diverted from going into the landfill. So I was just wanted to put forth that suggestion that that be included in our special events, because the last thing we want is more styrofoam, more garbage going into our waste, our landfills, when other alternatives are out there.
Good, and thank you for that. We really appreciate it. We want to be the best stewards of our environment as we can, and I did look over, and I saw that CAO Johnson was taking notes as you were speaking. So yeah, I just wanted you to know that. So appreciate the comments for sure. Anybody else? Yes, Sue Papineau. It's just about Stephanie's plan. Excuse me, Sue, could you just put the mic on? It's that gray button on the left, on the right-hand side, I think. There, oh, it was on. So our CAO is rushing over to assist you. One moment, please.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, the event guide that Stephanie has prepared, I've gone over it, and it's great, just from what I can see. From the Durham and District Horticultural Society standpoint, we are a massive user of the Durham Town Hall. As you know, we have 15 dates booked for 2019 through Randy and confirmed with Stephanie. If you must understand, these are booked and the advertising is out, everything is set to go. So if there's any glitches now or we carry our own insurance, that's not an issue. We don't have alcohol. But I really kind of need to be able to go back to our executive board and say, we're okay. Nothing's going to change with that as this gets changed and the process goes on with this. We'd be in big trouble if I had to start backing out of stuff now. The other thing too is, as Callie's pointed out, about being very conscious of the environment. It might be a good idea for somebody to go and check out the the recycling program at the town hall. As I see it exists right now, garbage goes into the garbage can, recycling goes into the blue bin, they all go into one container outside, which is the garbage container. I don't see recycling being done at the town hall at all.
Okay,
Thank you.
No, thank you for all comments, but thank you for the comment on the recycling program at the Durham Town Hall. Madam CAO, do you have a comment based on what Sue Papineau was saying, just overall for the Durham Horticultural Society and the events that they have booked in terms of impact, and just an overall comment for her?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Sue, for your comments. I understand that Stephanie received an informative email from you earlier today, or whenever it was. So I will encourage Stephanie to connect directly with you to go over those events and make sure that if there's any red flags, you have that information in advance. I mean, the policy hasn't been adopted yet, but if she has a sense of your timing, that would be helpful for her as well.
And Madam Clerk, Madam CAO, just based on the other comment from Sue Papineau for the recycling issue at Durham Town Hall, is that something that you could carry the message to the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works and have that corrected? Okay, so rest assured, comments are being addressed as we know of them. Thank you for that. All right, any other member of the public that would like to attend at the podium? No? All right. Well, thank you very much for those comments. So we are on item 20, which is Municipal Act notice. We have none. All right. So at this point, we will not adjourn because we are going into closed session to finish our items. Sure. Sure. So it will conclude our public portion, and now I'd be looking for a mover and a seconder to go back into closed session. Councillor Hamilton and Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. All those in favor? Carried. All those opposed? Carried. Thank you. And thank you very much all for coming and watching our council meeting. Hope to see you at the next one.